The moment you share a Bitcoin address to receive a payment, pay a salary, or settle an invoice, you've handed that person a window into your entire on-chain financial history. Every transaction, every counterparty, permanently visible on-chain to anyone who looks. I've spent my career trying to fix that, and I want to tell you how that started. In 2013, I stood up at a Bitcoin conference in San Jose and presented something most of the room had never heard before. How to make Bitcoin private, how to enable confidential, post-quantum secure transactions using probabilistically checkable proofs and Starks without sacrificing what makes Bitcoin trustworthy. I walked out of that room convinced of two things: that the future of money would be built on Bitcoin, and that the cryptography I've spent my career building would be how we got there. I want you to understand something. This road has been long, really long. Before StarkWare, I was a tenured professor and a researcher, and I spent my entire academic career, decades of it, on cryptography. I was a founding scientist of Zcash, the first serious attempt at private digital currency. I was the co-inventor of the post-quantum secure Stark proof system, and the work has not stopped. Co-founding StarkWare and moving into crypto, choosing to build on Ethereum and then on Bitcoin, these were not rash decisions. They were a culmination of a lifetime's work. Every step has been building towards the same thing, making blockchains do what they were meant to do: deliver sovereignty in a secure and scalable way. In 2017, I made a choice that has weighed on me ever since. I was co-founding StarkWare and deciding where to set our focus. Bitcoin Core wouldn't move. The protocol changes that were needed had no path forward. The community was divided. The development process was slow, and I had to decide where the mathematics I'd spent my whole life on would find its home. I chose to focus solely on Ethereum, and it worked. We became the market leaders in ZK. We proved that ZKPs could scale a real blockchain in production. Our technology saved users over $1 billion in fees while settling over $1.5 trillion of trading securely. We built Starknet into the most performant and advanced ZK Layer 2. Everything we set out to do, we did. We have been at the forefront of cryptography and zero-knowledge technology ever since I co-founded the company, close to 10 years ago. Most of what the industry uses today, the roll-up architecture, the proof systems, the scaling frameworks, is rooted in technology that we built. It seemed to me back then, in 2017, that Ethereum, and not Bitcoin, is the only place where ZK Starks can thrive. I now realize that I was wrong. Not because of what we did for Ethereum, that was the right call for what we needed, but because I shouldn't have given up on Bitcoin. I should have found a way to do both. That frustration I felt in 2017, it hasn't gone away. Bitcoin Core still moves slowly. Opcat, the opcode change that would allow us to bring full trustless verification to Bitcoin, has no confirmed timeline. The progress towards post-quantum safe Bitcoin is too slow. The same bottleneck from 9 years ago is still there. But this time, I am not walking away. We had two choices: wait for Bitcoin to change on its own, which we've been lobbying for and will keep pushing, or act now. Show the world what Bitcoin with scalability and privacy actually looks like. And that's exactly what we did. Today, we're launching Stark BTC, private Bitcoin powered by Starknet. You can hold it publicly or you can shield it. When it's shielded, your balance and every transaction you make are invisible on-chain. You unshield when you want. You can use it across DeFi. You earn yield on it, all within a compliance framework that institutions can actually work with. Stark BTC is secured by a federated bridge today. That's not the endgame, and we know it. When Opcat passes, and we'll keep pushing for it, Stark BTC migrates to trustless cryptographic verification, secured by nothing but the mathematics itself. We'll continue to research and explore ways to secure Stark BTC and Starknet against quantum threats. I gave up on Bitcoin once, I'm not making that mistake again. I know that for Bitcoin to win, it needs privacy, scalability, post-quantum security, and all of us to continue working on it. Now let me hand it over to Damien, who's going to walk you through why this matters right now and what Stark BTC actually gives you.
Ellie just told you the story of why Stark BTC exists. Let me tell you why the timing matters. Privacy was the hottest narrative at the end of 2025. Every major ecosystem was scrambling to orient their strategy around it. Ethereum announced the Kohaku framework, Solana shipped confidential balances, Aztec launched Ignition, Sui published a privacy white paper, Cardano launched Midnight. Every team arrived at the same conclusion at the same time. And this happened because privacy is real product market fit, with real paying users. I'll show you what I mean. Tornado Cash is a fully sanctioned application. It has over $500 million locked, with $35 million in cumulative revenue. Railgun has over $143 million in total value locked, with $11 million in cumulative revenue. And Canton. Canton launched in the middle of 2024, and it's already burned over $13 million in fees. Zcash users paid $300 million in private transaction fees in 2025 alone. People are paying for privacy. People are paying hundreds of millions of dollars a year for privacy. And every single option they're paying for is broken. Today, if you want privacy, you have three primary options, and they each have their own limitations. The first is application level privacy. These are your Tornado Cash, your Railgun. They work, but these applications are often heavily sanctioned. Your capital can be commingled with criminal funds, they may be frozen after interacting with these contracts. The second is network level privacy. These are your Moneros and your Zcashes. They have strong privacy features, but there are often asset level limitations. In order to access their privacy features, you need to swap your asset into a new asset like ZEC or XMR. And the third is centralized exchanges. These are your Binances and your Coinbases. They offer what I call pseudo privacy. You can send and give them custody of your funds, and your assets will be pooled on chain with other users, and they'll be settled on their internal ledger. Everyone is familiar with this flow, right? You have BTC on the Bitcoin network, you send it to a centralized exchange, they give you a deposit address, they credit your account, you trade, wait, do whatever you want, and then you withdraw it to a new BTC address. To you, that address is effectively private. It has no on-chain transaction history, but you've had to share sensitive data with the exchange. The exchange has had to hold your funds. This isn't private, it's a workaround. Stark BTC is the answer to all three of these limitations. It's built at the intersection of trust, composability, and privacy. When you shield your Stark BTC, your balances, your transactions, your activities, these are all invisible on-chain. No one looking at the blockchain can see what you're doing, how much you're holding, or who you're transacting with. Stark BTC is a fully composable token within DeFi on Starknet. You can deploy it into BTC staking to secure the network, you can earn yield, you can use it as collateral, you can transact with it across the network. Stark BTC is actual productive capital. You bridge in with one click, you bridge out with one click. This is what it looks like in practice. You have Bitcoin, it's sitting on the Bitcoin network, you open the bridge, you click bridge in your Bitcoin lands on Starknet as Stark BTC, you shield it, your balance disappears from the public ledger, and your Stark BTC moves into the privacy pool. You can transact, send, receive, trade, earn yield, do whatever you want, all completely shielded from the blockchain. Once you're ready, you can bridge back out to Bitcoin in one click. You click on shield, your Stark BTC moves to a new wallet, you bridge it back to the Bitcoin network, it lands as native Bitcoin in a new wallet with zero transaction history. Stark BTC is the first product that gives you this. Privacy with robust financial markets, all while not compromising on security, compliance, or decentralization. Now I'll hand it over to Ilya, who'll go over how this works under the hood.
Okay, Damien just walked you guys through what it feels like to use Stark BTC. Now let me show you what's happening underneath. I know you guys can't see my face. I'm Ilya. I'm the Bitcoin product lead at StarkWare. I'm staying anon because of my illustrious and mysterious past. So we'll start off from bridging from Bitcoin to Starknet. The process is very simple. You send Bitcoin to the Federation's multi-sig address on Bitcoin, and then a group of independent signers, each running their own Bitcoin and Starknet nodes, see the deposit and generate their approvals. Once enough of them sign off, Stark BTC is minted and sent to your Starknet address. And that's it, you now have Stark BTC on Starknet. Withdrawals work the same way but in reverse. You can burn your Stark BTC on Starknet, and then the signers release your Bitcoin on the Bitcoin network and send it back to your Bitcoin address. That's all there is to it. The ratio is always 1 to 1. One Stark BTC is backed by one BTC, Mints happen on deposit, burns happen on withdrawal, there is no fractional reserve, there is no algorithmic peg. Now, this is not the final form of the bridge. It's designed to evolve across 3 phases, each one reducing how much trust you have to place in anyone. Phase 1, as we mentioned, is the federation. That's where we are today. The bridge runs on a federated multisig. The trust assumption is an honest majority of signers, which are a set of high-integrity, independent entities, each running their own Bitcoin and Starknet nodes with hardware-secured key management. They attest and handle every deposit and withdrawal. The federation is fully transparent, so you can see who the signers are. You can see how the multisig is structured, and you can verify the Stark BTC contracts at any time. Phase 2 is BitVM. BitVM is a state-of-the-art protocol that reduces the trust assumption from an honest majority to 1 out of n honest entities. That means that a single honest actor can challenge anything fraudulent. Operators can propose withdrawals, then there's a challenge period, and if anyone detects fraud, they can refute the fraudulent transaction on-chain and stop it. BitVM is still a field of active research, and we will implement it once it's commercially viable. Then we have Phase 3, OpCat. This is the end game. Fully trustless, no federation, no operators, no challengers. In this phase, OpCat would be enabled on Bitcoin, and Bitcoin script itself would maintain a mirror of the bridge state. Withdrawals would require zero-knowledge proofs that the state transitions are valid, and Bitcoin nodes will be able to verify them directly. Then the transactions would be accepted or rejected. At that point, we would not even need a 1 out of n honest threshold. We would need nothing. Fraudulent transactions would be mathematically impossible. Of course, for now this is not possible, and it will be facilitated by the introduction of OpCat into the Bitcoin protocol. But this is the world Stark BTC is building towards. Now that you know how to acquire Stark BTC, let's take a look at how you can use it.
The moment your Stark BTC lands on Starknet, something else becomes possible, and that's what I want to talk to you about now. Stark BTC isn't just wrapped Bitcoin on a faster chain. It's the first token to use something we call Stark20, private Bitcoin that you can shield and unshield. Invisible transfers, a compliance framework institutions can actually use. None of that would exist without Stark20. Stark20 is what makes Stark BTC possible, and Stark20 is what I want to tell you about now, because this is the part of the story that does not stop at Bitcoin. Stark20 is a privacy capability for ERC20 tokens on Starknet. It's not a new token standard, it's not a replacement for ERC20s, and it's not a separate application or a sidechain or a mixer sitting on top of a transparent ledger. It's a framework enabling any ERC20 on Starknet to support shielded balances and private transfers with a single toggle at the wallet level. You turn it on when you need privacy, you turn it off when you don't, and the token underneath never changes. Here's how it works at the network level. When you shield a Stark20 token, your assets enter a canonical asset pool, which is a single shared network-level privacy pool built directly into Starknet's infra. Everything that happens inside the pool, who you transact with, how much you move, and what your holdings are is hidden from the chain. And because it's a single canonical pool rather than a separate pool for every asset, every Stark20 token shares the same anonymity set. The more tokens and the more users that participate, the stronger the privacy guarantees become for everyone. This is possible because of Starknet's native ZK architecture. Every private transaction is backed by a proof generated by your wallet operator and verified at the sequencer level by the same proving infra that Starknet already uses to prove its state. The proof says, I own this balance and this transaction is valid, I am not double spending, without ever revealing what the balance is or who it belongs to. And because Starknet's Provers 2 is the fastest production-grade prover on the market, those proofs are generated quickly enough that the user experience doesn't break. This is not something you can just bolt onto another chain that was not designed for it. You need the cryptographic foundations underneath, and you need them at the protocol level. What makes Stark20 different from every other approach to on-chain privacy comes down to two words: network level and composable. Application-level tools like Tornado Cash or Railgun sit on top of a transparent chain and are typically slow, expensive, require third-party tooling outside your wallet, and heavy tracking of secrets and state. Single-asset privacy chains like Zcash and Monero give you privacy, but only for one asset, and you can't take your shielded holdings into DeFi because they exist in isolation. Permissioned networks like Canton give you privacy inside closed governance, which is not the same thing as privacy on an open public blockchain. Stark20 is different because the privacy is in the infra. The sequencer verifies the proofs, and the chain itself enforces the rules. It's privacy built into the network, not bolted on at the app layer. And crucially, Stark20 tokens are still ERC20s. That's where most of the privacy solutions break. When you shield a Stark20 token, it does not leave the ecosystem. It still interacts with every wallet, every protocol, every bridge on Starknet. You can swap it on a DEX, you can use it as collateral, you can provide liquidity with it, all privately with no added integration. You do not trade composability for privacy, you get both at the same time. The compliance layer sits on top of this architecture, and Catherine is going to walk you through exactly how that works. Stark BTC is the first Stark20 token. It's the proof that the framework works, but it's not where the story ends. Any ERC20 deployed on Starknet can be private. Stablecoins, governance tokens, wrapped assets, whatever the ecosystem builds next. We built the foundations. What people build with it is the most interesting part of the story from now on. As the first step to make the most out of Stark20's capabilities, we've integrated it into our anonymous DeFi flow. Here's what it looks like in practice.
Now that you know what you can do with Stark BTC, how it works, and where it works, I want to take a minute to talk about the part that makes Stark BTC practical: compliance. Existing attempts at compliant or smart privacy solutions on public blockchains rely on proof of innocence, like Railgun or Oxbow. No regulator has ever endorsed this as sufficient. The challenge is assets can only be flagged before they leave the pool, and audit trails cannot be provided if the flag comes after, as is often the case. This is considered state-of-the-art in the absence of a better solution. Stark BTC, leveraging Stark20 built-in privacy solution, is that better solution. Instead of proof of innocence, we introduce smart privacy with compliance in mind, based on key escrow made possible by the ZK innovation that powers Starknet. When you deposit an asset into the privacy pool, you create a viewer key. If the protocol cannot verify that a viewer key has been created, you cannot interact with the pool. Those viewer keys go to an auditor. In the event of a legitimate regulatory request, the auditor can use that viewer key to reveal only the information necessary to respond to the request while keeping the rest of the information private. Full asset trails can be created as needed, even after the assets have left the pool. In theory, this design is not hard to conceptualize. Hays and Days, Compliant Privacy Mixers, an academic paper written by StarkWare researcher and privacy lead Maya Doughton, proved the cryptographic correctness of this approach. What is hard is to actually implement it. But by leveraging Starks and Cairo, Stark20s take that proof of concept into a full production system with DeFi composability, multi-asset support, private channel note discovery, and throughput at approximately 1,000 transactions per second. No other privacy approach can support this. This is not absolute privacy that can be abused by money launderers, wrongdoers, and people attempting to evade sanctions. This is privacy for those that want to use blockchain legitimately, at scale and speed, and still want to interact with the existing financial world.
Bitcoin is a $1.9 trillion asset. That's larger than the rest of crypto combined. And less than 0.5% of it participates in DeFi. Just think about that for a second. The largest digital asset ever created, the most valuable asset in this industry, and more than 99% of it sits economically idle. Ethereum, with a fraction of Bitcoin's value, has built an economy many times larger. Why? Not because Bitcoin lacks demand, not because Bitcoin lacks holders, not because Bitcoin lacks importance, but because public finance has limits. People do not expose treasury balances, counterparties, payment flows, investment strategy, or even commercial relationships on a transparent ledger. They don't run serious businesses that way. They don't manage institutional capital that way. They do not make payments that way. So they hold and they wait. Fixed privacy and Bitcoin's real economic potential becomes reachable for the first time. And this did not begin yesterday. Early in 2024, we announced our strategic focus on Bitcoin. Mid-2024, we stood up a $1 million BTC-Fi research fund and built a trustless Bitcoin bridge on Signet using Opcat. April 2025, we published the first paper on Collider VM, which enforces smart contracts on Bitcoin without requiring protocol upgrades. September 2025, Bitcoin staking went live on Starknet. October 2025, BTC-Fi opened as one of the cheapest places in the world to borrow against Bitcoin. And today, Stark BTC. For the last 2 years, we have been quietly building toward this moment, paper by paper, program by program, bridge by bridge. Not chasing headlines, not chasing cycles, building patiently toward what Bitcoin could become. Stark BTC is not the end of that journey. It is the moment those pieces become real. 13 years ago, Ellie told a room of early believers in San Jose that private Bitcoin was possible. Today, it ships. That's the arc you just watched. From vision to reality, from theory to product, from what Bitcoin was to what Bitcoin can become. So here is what we are asking you to do with it. If you hold Bitcoin and believe it should do more than sit idle, bring it on chain. Bridge your Bitcoin. Shield your Stark BTC. Use it. If you are an institution, a builder, or a partner who believes privacy should be built into the financial system itself, come speak with us, because this launch is bigger than one product. It is another step toward a future where Bitcoin becomes one of the most useful assets. Not only something you store, it's something you use, something you build on, something that moves. Private Bitcoin is here.